everybody's like just doing their own thing. They're on task and they're working towards their goals that they've set themselves, which means that we can have more fun. I'm not pulling teeth to get them to do the things. Like, I'm not the one having, to drive it. And then we get to have fun. Welcome to the Homeschool Perspective, where seasoned homeschooling moms share tips, insights, and resources to empower your homeschool journey. Welcome back to the Homeschool Perspective. It's that time of year when everything feels a little bit rushed and a little blurry. You're juggling lessons and sports, co-op performances, and you're probably wondering, did we actually even do enough this year? So what if we hit pause on the pressure and ask a different question? What would be in your homeschool highlight reel? All right, guys, this is such an important topic because it's so easy to focus on those things that we didn't do, or, all the check marks that we didn't check. But we need to take some time to remember and reflect on the things that we did, what went well, right? Do you guys have a good way of tracking this or doing this at all in your homeschool?
Well, I stole Allie's idea.
I know. She had a great idea that we shared earlier on the podcast. Do you want to share what that is again?
Me? Oh, I was
Yeah.
like, wait, is Lisa gonna share? So once a year, we go through all of our pictures month by month. And because I was thinking as you were talking about the intro, I was thinking like the highlight reel moments feel fleeting sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like the joy comes and we kind of let it fizzle away real quick. It's like, oh, that was nice. And then when we're in like the yuck, we let that fester. You let that like sit longer. And we had a moment yesterday that I may have let fester a little longer than I should have. But now I'm thinking about this and I'm like, no, we've had so many lovely, delightful highlights. Even yesterday we did, but we really do. We let those like flip by and miss it. So in order to counteract that in our own house, because I definitely have a tendency to sit in the fester, we every year at New Year's, we go through the entire previous year, month by month. We look at all the photos from my husband's phone, from my phone together as a family, and we pull out all of our favorite things. And there's always way more than we ever thought that there would be. When I take a picture every year of the whiteboard at the end of it, I'm always shocked because I'll feel like we didn't do anything this year. We didn't go anywhere this year. We didn't accomplish anything this year. Like this was not our year, right? Like I'll say things like that. And then I look at this board and I'm like, holy moly, my goodness, like we actually did a lot of really fun, interesting, like these things did go towards our family mission and what we want for our homeschool. We did do it. And I think it's just that like letting things flit or fester. So really intentionally taking that time to look and make yourself look at the things that flitted by and be like, wait a minute, we can sit in that joy. We can enjoy that. We can appreciate that and the memories that we got to make there. So that's how we do it once a year. But I am realizing that after yesterday in particular, I'm like, we really need to be doing this more frequently.
Yeah.
So I also started writing down 10 things I'm grateful for every morning. I started doing that a couple of months ago. And sometimes it's a chore, which, kind of breaks my heart because I have so much to be grateful for. But I am trying to do that. And then the other thing, oh gosh, guys, I'm adding a list. But you know me, I love my lists. I love my things to do. I saw something else the other day that I just started, and I added a note to my phone. Hold on. It says, the top of it says, good things are always happening to me by the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ. And then anytime something really cool, like funky or those little flip moments, I'm trying to write them down under that note. So this is something I really intentionally try to do because it's really easy for me to get pulled the other way.
We play the thankful game every day as a family. Every day we all share 3 things we're thankful for from that day. And so it really forces us to be fully present. And then I will make notes of really amazing things that are out of the ordinary or whatever. And then probably once every 6 weeks or so, we do like a cumulative like one, like, hey, what's been your favorite thing from the last month-ish, of time? And then we do them seasonally. So we do this as a family regularly. And what I've realized is that homeschooling is never in those gratitude moments. It's never like, oh, I love that science lesson, right? But the moments that happen while we're homeschooling together, those come up. Like that time we got super silly and we laughed, or that one day that we had, it's mid-April right now and it is snowing outside and the cherry blossoms and the pear blossoms and the plum blossoms in the yard were all covered with snow this morning. So we had a snowball fight as our first class of the day instead of doing school. They will remember this forever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not so much that that's like a homeschool highlight reel, but it is a connection highlight reel.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, I look more at our family growth and connection and their character growth than I do with anything else. And so we've had a lot of those this year. We had a struggling reader overcome that and tackle reading because we set a huge reward goal for reading a super meaty chapter book. And he is running towards it. And it could take him like 9 months to a year to reach that goal. And we're fully aware of that, but we're kind of going for that character trait of persistence and determination right now, that stick-to-itiveness that we want to develop in that child. And so we're celebrating each milestone along the way, because what I want my kids to learn this year, one of the things that we talked about, is it's not always about the end result. It's about every little milestone along the way. So our highlight reel this homeschool year in particular is a lot different than it has been in past years. Because in past years, it's been like, oh yeah, you remember when I finished that book or when I wrote that paper? And it was about results. And this year, it's, as I talked with the kids the other day, it was all about process moments. And it was really exciting. And I think if we as homeschool moms gave ourselves that same grace that we're teaching our kids about those process moments, right? So it's not like that my kids never melt down, but it's that I didn't yell when they had their meltdown. And it's not that they never make a mess in their room, but I help them. And if we did that, we'd have so many more highlight reels. So I'm starting to also celebrate my homeschool process moments.
Okay, you're talking about process moments. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yes. Okay, so one of our topics in homeschooling this year was ancient Rome. We were studying the development of Rome, and I was getting really frustrated that my kids, because we have adult kids and we have young kids, so I have this preconceived expectation almost in every subject we go into based on what my older graduated kids were like when they studied this. And when they studied this, we created like Lego cities and we had like battles, and it was fun and it was exciting and they loved it and they still remember it and they still talk about it. My younger kids were like, this is boring.
Wow.
It was like a knife to my heart. I was ready to cry. I was like, I'm sorry, what now? You're like, huh? And then, would you like to know what was fun? Algebra. I'm not a math person. My husband teaches homeschool math. So it was like, what now?
That's funny.
Wow. So different.
And so I had this like huge moment where I'm like, I have failed as a homeschooling mom with these kids. They think history is boring. Right. And I was like, okay, like regroup. And so I just found some literature books. We picked up some things to read, and they love read alouds. And we wove in history and like, oh, this happened because remember this in history? Like that's, we drew connection points and we had these moments. But at the end of that unit study, my one kid in particular was like, I'm thankful about this unit. I was like, really? What are you thankful for? They're like, I am thankful it's over. Gosh.
Well, hey, gratitude is gratitude.
They weren't being snarky. They were taking our practice of gratitude and finding something to be positive about. And I said, what else can you be thankful for? And they came out with, well, I guess I learned that even if something's not fun, it can still have value. And so that became my homeschool highlight moment for that season of homeschooling this year. Like that was it. And it was the process of teaching them, the process of what they were learning that became valuable in that. And so I think that sometimes it's so easy to focus on like, man, where did I go wrong that this is boring to my kids? But instead I was like, you know what? There was a lot of character learning. This was a process and a stage of development for them. And that's exciting. It's exciting that they grew as people. It's exciting that they learned how to study things that didn't interest them and find value in the facts. They learned how to assimilate the knowledge. The process of doing the subject was more important than the outcome in this instance. And as homeschooling moms, we often forget that almost everything that we do that feels thankless and mundane and routine is so valuable because we forget to celebrate the process. And it's important that we show up, that we do history, that we do science, that we feed them, and that we wash the dishes that are just going to pile up again, right? Like,
Yeah.
these are things to celebrate. And so I have been intentionally celebrating the fact that I'm still teaching this. Like, I'm still homeschooling.
Yeah.
When I started, it was for maybe 1 year, and that was like almost 20 years ago. Like,
Hmm.
I'm still here. So for me, that's a homeschool highlight this year. It's not just about the kids' wins, it's about
Mm-hmm.
the consistency, the character, the connection, and the continuity of it all.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
One of the things that I'm doing this year, because I'm not one to, we don't do the, what we're thankful for every night, or, I'm not as intentional about this as you both are. We have these discussions though, and we have these conversations. I did take a little page from, I think, Lisa, from you, and where you take your kids out for their birthdays and then
Yeah.
you talk to them about, and, we just, so I've taken a page from that and we've started doing that. And that's been really fun, just to talk to them about where they've been, where they want to go, how they want to get there, what they want to do in the next year and stuff like that. So that's been really good. But we have in our state, we're required to keep evidence of learning, like samples.
Mm.
The word is samples, like in the law. I have like everything. I do not have samples. I have stacks and stacks and
You have an
stacks.
Full
encyclopedia.
product lines.
Yeah. So one of the projects that we have for this summer is that I'm going to get each of my kids a file box that has, at least 12 folders in it. And we are going to go back and intentionally look at and decide what is the highlight reel for each of their grades, to have samples of their learning for their whole, career or whatever, their homeschooling career so far. And so for, my child that's going into high school, that's going to be a lot of stuff to go through, because we've got a lot of stuff in that closet. That closet's one of the ones where you like are afraid to open it because
We
like
can't
everything's
sell
coming
this
at you.
house and move, because that would have to come with us. That's
Yeah,
like
right.
that
Like,
closet, right?
and it's like spilled out into the room, and it's yeah. So we are going to go through it, at least with my older two. It's going to be a while. It's going to take some real effort. My younger two, obviously it'll be easier because they're still in the younger grades, but to start that and just thinking about what is the highlight and letting them choose what the highlights were for each year. And we pulled out the boxes and started looking through things, and it's like, oh, remember when we did this, and remember,
Sweet.
when we learned that. So going back even further and looking at the highlights is going to be a real treat. We take pictures and do a lot of that too, so I'm sure that that's going to be a big part of it, is putting in some pictures of things. But
Y'all both homeschooled, right?
yeah.
Yes.
So I'm
Yeah.
curious, what would be on your homeschool highlight reel from your homeschooling years?
Mm.
What do you remember still, or like what stands out like the most is like, oh, this was like one of the most epic things of being homeschooled?
The best thing for me was getting, I got really close to my sister that year, because we were together the whole year. And, before, when we were at school, we were in our separate grades and all of that. So we did a lot together. We volunteered together, and that would, we had to wake up early, even though we were, volunteer, or homeschooling. We had to wake up because we volunteered with this thing. And then just, probably the core classes were fine or whatever. It was all the other stuff that we did. It was the youth symphony that we were involved in that we got credit for, the cooking classes, the sewing classes, like those little things that were the extras. Those were the fun things about homeschooling that year that would be my highlights.
I love that. I love that you and your sister got so
That's
close.
awesome.
I think that's
We
like, because
did.
you guys are still so close.
Yes.
That's like, I think that's one of the best treasures. So when I was homeschooled, it was a kind of a weird situation because I was traveling so much. So
Mm-hmm.
I literally did my homeschool for high school. The entire time in high school, I would do like a semester in a month, and then I would go and be on tour for 3 months. And then I would come back, learn a
So
new show,
tour
do
was
another.
kind of,
So I think, well, you know what? Tour was amazing. That was incredible. And being able to go to these different countries and work with people from all over the world, that was, I mean, that's the whole reason that we homeschooled, and it was amazing. But then I also did other things. Like I ended up becoming a manager of a Cold Stone Creamery, and like did all kinds of
Yeah.
weird things. So, I got a job. So I toured for 2.5 years. And then just before I was getting ready to college, I took a break touring and decided to get like typical high school jobs. Like that sounded fun to me. And so I worked at Cold Stone and helped them open some stores. And then I was able to get a job at Starbucks because I was able to work the 4 a.m. shift every day if I wanted to because I was homeschooled. And
Mm,
they didn't normally hire high schoolers, but they hired me because I was homeschooled. So like that felt really
yeah.
cool at the time too. But there were so many things that I loved about it. Just being able to choose, I think I felt um, in traditional school, I felt so restricted. I felt like there was so much I wasn't allowed to do, wasn't able to do.
Right.
I couldn't. I still remember one of the papers I wrote homeschooling because I was able to take, it was about women's suffrage, but I was able to take a perspective that I would not have been allowed to take in the school I was at prior. Like, and it ended up being one of the most fun papers I ever wrote, and I still love it. So I think it was just more that like I got a real taste of what it meant to be able to choose my life and choose my days and
Yes.
choose who I
That's
was
it.
with. And it was like, why would you do anything else? Like
Yeah.
this is the
Yeah.
best thing ever. Uh,
And just like the times that we were available too,
yeah,
like it just opened up so many other opportunities, like you were talking about with Starbucks and, just all of those things. We were able to do things in the middle of the day, and then or our evenings were free. That was one that was huge, is because I was coming from a school where I was involved in every extracurricular activity there was, and it took up my all of my afternoons and all of my evenings, and suddenly that wasn't the case anymore, and it was great. And then just the other random opportunities, like you said. Like one thing I thought of when you were talking is I hosted this I hosted this local news show, and I was the host, and I was like interviewing local business
Good.
owners. And I mean, because I had an interest in that, and I thought that I was going to go into school as a radio television broadcast major. And so I got to practice. Like I got to be
yeah,
on TV in my little local town interviewing these business owners about their new things that were coming out. It was so cool. So all of these awesome opportunities that I just don't think that I would have had working different opportunities, it was just great. It was so great.
fun.
So that was a good question,
It
Lisa.
was
I
a
love
very
that.
good question.
Yeah.
I think it's a good reminder for us. Like I said, that's we focus so much on their academics when we look for
Yeah.
highlight reels, but
Hmm.
for me, I'm realizing it is the process. It is the
Yeah,
process of learning, not the outcome of learning, that's really the highlight. And the process of teaching, connection, character, it's so much more than just academics for me as the mom. And that's like thinking about you guys and your experiences, but even being public schooled and private school, like looking back at my years in education, I am so proud of this one paper that I wrote in 11th grade English lit class. I doubled up my junior senior years, and my 11th grade AP class was harder than my 12th grade AP class
Hmm.
because
mm,
the teacher would not let up, and he had this very black and white grading system.
mm,
And it was like, you lost 1 point for this and 2 points for this. And it was this very fair rubric. It was not like, oh, I really like what you had to say here and your ideas came together well, so I'm going to give you an A. It was like, yes, your ideas have to flow, but your grammar has to be on point, your punctuation has to be on
mm.
point, all of the things. And I liked it because it was clear. And so I could meet
Yeah.
the expectations, right? And there was this one paper that I wrote for him, and I swear it should have been an A plus to this day. Like, I'm still in touch with him. I still argue with him. And I think it was an A plus, and I got an 89. I was very upset. It was like my
Mm.
only B that whole year, and I was devastated. But his grading system was so black and white that he's like, no, it's an 89. And I'm like, that's not a mistake. And he's like, yes, it is. And it was so
Wow.
funny. But I remember that because what I learned in his class was so powerful for me. And it wasn't about the paper. It was about the fact that I somehow thought I had failed because I got an 89 instead of a 90 plus. And I learned to self advocate. I learned how to take critical feedback and not let it crush me. I learned how to still have a relationship with a person that quote unquote crushed my dreams, like I felt so right to still just let him speak to me and show me what I did wrong and not run away and hide from it. And like thinking of my friends whose bosses at work would give them feedback and they're like, I have to quit my job now. Like
Mm.
I can't go back there, right? Like this is so hard. I'm like, you know what I mean? No. That was such a defining moment for me. Model Senate was another huge one, defending my position. And we were assigned our positions and the bills that we had to pass, and I was assigned one that I did not believe in and I thought was wrong. Mm. And it was very challenging for me to think in someone else's shoes. But it was a pivotal moment in my learning how to think and my learning how to clearly articulate. But most of my highlight reel moments were social, they were emotional, they were not academic. So, and I figured that held true over homeschooling also. And so I think just as we head into our reflection season, because I think we all kind of do that at the end of the year, looking back at the year with our kids, it's important to remember those and celebrate those too. And those are not always photographed as clearly. And there's not always a paper to look at. So I think we have to document them more intentionally. I started writing them in the margins of my day planner. And going back through my day planner, I have a certain color pen that I use for the moments.
Oh, I like that.
And it's like right here. And so I go back and I look through for those colored moments.
If you could share one thing from the whole year, like one thing that would be on your highlight reel, what would that be? And if you're listening, I want you to think of one too. Think of one thing that would be your big highlight, or just one of many. It doesn't have to be the biggest one, just one of many.
For us this year, it's been laughing together. I can think of a bunch of different examples, but we were in such a state for several years of survival and getting through and checking boxes and being just way overly busy. And this year, it has, and the kids, when I ask them what their favorite parts have been, it's been all these moments where we have ended up laughing together and being silly together, which is something that I just wasn't in a space to do for a while because it was just so busy. So I'll say there's one that just happened the other day. We're learning about the human body anatomy with two of the older kids, and we were talking about the face muscles, and it had a little activity where it was like they just wanted, it was just a fun, like make a happy face, sad face, and we were looking at the different muscles, and we were making these faces to each other, and we just on the floor rolling, laughing, and like it just ended up being one of the silliest days ever. And even just that happened a couple weeks ago, and even just a few nights ago, my littlest one was like, "Do you remember when we were making faces and we all ended up laughing?" He's like, "That was the best day of school ever," you know? And we've had more of those moments this year. And yes, we've had academic wins and all the other things, but those are definitely the treasures that we are all really grateful for this year.
For us, it's also not an academic one. We had 2 refugee families move to our town this year at different times. And my kids rearranged their homeschool schedules. I love that they looked at everything they had to do in a week. They knew that they were still going to have to do it. And they shuffled it so that they could be available to help carry boxes and help people get settled in. And there is something so beautiful about their heart of service. Absolutely. But also about their awareness of time and their thoughts, like, how can we solve this problem? And I was just so proud of both of those things for them, that went down as one of my favorite moments for them this year.
I love
Mine
that.
has been character growth in some of my kids, and
love that.
Like taking responsibility for their actions and just knowing what they need to do and getting it done. And it's been so much more fun to homeschool this way once they've learned this skill and gotten this kind of understanding, because they can get their work done. That means they're more independent, and where everybody's like just doing their own thing, they're on task, and they're working towards their goals that they've set themselves, which means that we can have more fun. I'm not pulling teeth to get them to do the things, like I'm not the one having, to drive it. They just understand. And this is not just one kid, but several, like it has been across the board, this understanding of, oh, this is our routine, this is what we do, this is my responsibility, and then we get to have fun and we get to do all these other things. So this year has been great because we've been able to do so much more on the fun side and the out of the box type stuff, because they're taking care of their responsibilities and they've learned that and had that character growth. So that's been huge for us.
Love that.
So much. These were good years, guys. This has been a good year of homeschooling.
I know. So that's awesome. And like I said, those of you listening, take a minute to reflect and refocus and just think about the highlights of your year. Hopefully this was an encouragement to you. Hopefully this helped you to just really refocus maybe how you were feeling about your homeschool year so far, and how it might have felt like, oh, here's all the things that we haven't done, or all the things that I wish that we would have done. But take some time to reflect on all of the good things that you have done, and all the things that are coming for you. We did want to let you know that season 1 of the Homeschool Perspective is done. We are taking a break for the season. We are so grateful that you've been here listening with us this whole season long. Make sure that you are following us on social so you don't miss the beginning of our next season. And if this season has made you laugh, or made you think, or breathe a little bit easier, please share it with a friend, or leave us a review. That helps so much. So until next time, stay curious, stay intentional, and remember that your homeschool doesn't have to look like anyone else's to be exactly what your family means. Remember, it's your family and your homeschool. All right, we will see you next season.